Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising. Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach. And here at Wealthy Mind, we love to help you create and maintain a wealthy mind. Today, I have a special guest with me that is going to cover a little bit of a health topic and how does that apply to our money. So, welcome, Don.
Hello. Good to
How
be
are
here.
you? Yeah, I'm glad you're here. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
doing well, thanks.
good. Excellent. Would you please tell the audience your full name and what is your business?
Sure. My name is Donald Hungerford. I'm a my training is in naturopathic medicine. I've done this for 34 years now, and um, that's what my business is. And I help people regain their health, and um many of them are people that have reached dead ends through modern medicine, and they're finally like they get a referral to someone like me, and we can put them on the right path because the approach is we use the fundamental chemistry that makes your body work the way it's designed, and when we apply those types of food chemicals to the body, the result tends to be health, healing, and restoration.
Hmm. Well, most of our listeners are business owners, so we like the sound of that. We like healing and restoration. We don't like burnout.
No, no.
No, no. Let's try to avoid that nasty thing called burnout as much as possible. So, um, I appreciate that you're able to pick up the ball where maybe modern medicine drops it.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. So, the modern medicine, they're very good at certain types of things.
Mhm.
If you have car accidents, you have heart attacks, they're
Oh
great
yeah.
places to be. But if you go into like your primary care physician and you say, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I have a hard time getting out of bed. I slept 8 hours, but I woke up and I'm really tired, or I have chronic headaches, or my body hurts, my joints hurt, my muscles hurt. They don't have really good tools for those types of problems.
Hmm.
But when you look at the whole body and you consider that deficits of the fundamental chemistry that makes your body work the way it's designed
Hmm.
are really the underlying culprit for most of these types of health problems that people experience. Literally up to 80 to 90% of everything that goes wrong in your body has to do with deficits of the fundamental chemistry that makes your body work the way it's designed.
Mm. Yes, and stress is a component of that. So
Yes. And the
understood.
body, yeah, we're really designed to be able to deal with stress and manage stress.
Hmm.
But when we have these deficits going on in our diet, the body's stress adapters, they kind of run out of their fuel, and eventually they get tired and they get fatigued. And then the consequence of that is you get tired and you get fatigued, and then you get short fused, and then your focus and your concentration goes down.
Hmm. Definitely. So I have experience overcoming something that I shouldn't have been able to technically from modern medicine's
Right.
perspective. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and the diagnosing specialist said that fibromyalgia was caused by different types of trauma. It could be emotional trauma, mental trauma, physical trauma, whatever different types of traumas you can come up with. The guy gave me a list, and I was like, check, check,
Right.
check,
Right.
check, check. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, well, it's all the trauma that I have endured since I was born. So let's approach it from a natural, space. And
Right.
that's how I approached it was I need to go heal the trauma. I don't need medication to put a Band-Aid on this. I just need to go heal the trauma. And then to figure out what I was deficient in, which is part of the healing process that I took. So I got all those huge, like, natural healing books that would tell you, like, for fibromyalgia, it's common to be deficient in blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, cool. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's figure
Right.
out the right recipe for my body. So, in addition to figuring out what I was deficient in, I was also healing the trauma.
Right.
So that's how I overcame fibromyalgia. And my primary doctor at the time, she was like, if you don't want to take these psych meds, you're going to be sick with fibro the rest of your life. I was like, F you, watch me. I'll go figure
Right.
this out. Like, your psych
Yeah.
meds are making it worse.
Yeah. But remarkably, that attitude that you had of, I don't, those drugs are making me worse. There has to be a different approach to getting better. Uh,
Yeah.
so few people have that mindset that there has to be something different.
Well, I knew it wasn't my destiny, which is why I was so relentless in figuring it out. Because I'm like, my destiny is to be a world changer, not this.
Yeah.
So I have to go figure it out one way or another.
Yeah, I remember years ago I did a guest talk at a big hospital
Mhm.
for Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis support groups, and there was maybe 500 people there, and then the supportive doctors who treat these 500 patients that are in this group, and then support staff from the hospital. So basically, I talked to them, similarly. I said, hey, there's some underlying causes that are common amongst all of these cases, and I
Mhm.
talked about the what are the underlying causes and what can we do about those things. And as I'm looking across the audience, you can just see blank stares, blank stares, blank stares, and literally I remember looking out, and there was one woman, she just had like she was shocked and astonished. That's all you could say, when you looked at her. And I was like, that one, that's the one that's going to call me. And sure enough, the next morning, like my door hadn't been open 2 minutes. I got a phone call from her, and
Uh,
she got great success from it. And she recovered fully. And ironically, I never saw her again because she was just better.
hmm.
Yeah,
Yes. I love stories like that. I love stories like mine where it's like certain parts of the medical community are like, nope, if you have fibro, you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. And I'm like,
right.
nope,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, so many of these diseases that we're labeling as diseases, like fibromyalgia, for instance,
Mm,
they're not diseases at all. They're really deficits of the chemistry that makes your body work the way it should. And
mm,
even in the area of the trauma that you mentioned, uh, our psyche is fueled by different kinds of chemistry, and without it, and it's quite prevalent in the Western world where we've processed these things out of the American diet. And so what we've seen is an increase over time. It just marches on of steadily more increasing use of antidepressants, antipsychotics, and
mm,
the disease problem is not a deficiency of the drug, it's a deficiency of the fundamental chemistry that helps our
mm,
psyche work the way it's designed. And that's where
mm,
someone like me comes in. We can identify what that is that's missing, and then we can apply appropriate types of nutrition therapy to it.
mm.
And remarkably, the disease that's incurable or that's been there for a sustained period of time, it lightens up and disappears over time. And it's simply because you fed the body the appropriate kind of chemistry.
Definitely. I did have to eliminate certain foods. I was always sensitive to gluten and dairy as a child.
Right.
Um, but I could tolerate a little bit of it. And during that healing process, it was like, I need to be even more careful with my diet and really understanding what it is that I'm putting into my body. Thankfully, I naturally crave vegetables and
Yeah.
meat. And that's what
Right.
my body functions best from that diet with a little bit of fruit mixed in. Um, I'm so grateful that I don't have a sweet tooth. So it was just,
Yeah.
well,
You can develop one very quickly, though.
I've never developed one and I
I
don't want one. So uh,
know.
for me, it was really learning about what foods cause inflammation because
Right.
inflammation is a big problem when it comes to fibromyalgia. Your body is in pain everywhere. So I had to figure out what is causing inflammation. So it set me on this journey of massive education around food, around supplements, around
Right.
all the different things, right? And a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error involved in, especially, me just doing it for myself. It was,
For sure. When you're trying to do it for
yeah.
yourself, it's like, you take a step this way and it's, oh, not quite. And then this one, yep, that one's a little better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dialed it in. I was able to figure out like what I was deficient in primarily, which was magnesium. Magnesium was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a big one of my deficiencies. And then I also did a bunch of toxic cleansing.
Right.
So knowing that trauma was the cause of this, well, when you're in that stress response and fight and flight response, it creates a lot of toxins and they just kind of hang out in the body unless you get rid of them somehow. So
Yeah.
that was a huge part of my process was a toxic cleanse every quarter
Right.
for like maybe 3 years. I did that every
Mm.
single quarter until I felt like, okay, cool. Like that feels like I've done enough of that on the regular basis. And then I even went into like I got to a point, it took me 9 years to get free of all the symptoms of fibromyalgia and never look back. And I wanted to make sure that I stayed on that track. So I'm always continuing to improve my health. And one of the things that I did in my 30s was colonics. And
Right.
I did that for a time to make sure that my body was cleared out of toxins from that avenue as well. Um, and I could feel it. I was like, okay, cool. My body doesn't want that anymore. I did enough.
Right.
So it's, different things over time and presenting itself, it'll show me, oh, this is what you need, right? So, um, one of the newest things that I've been using, which I absolutely love, is oh crud, I just drew a blank on it. Glutathione.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as I'm in my 40s, it's really helping. The glutathione really helps with the oxidative stress in my body and just keeping everything at a good baseline. So, um, I have found that I need different things at different times of my life.
Yeah, for sure. If your body stayed static or stayed the same all of the time, the people that come to me, I could just say, hey, take this. This is what you need right now, and take it the rest of your life. But that's not reality. Our body changes as time marches on, and even as we age. So the demands you had 10 years ago are definitely different than the demands your body has today.
Mm,
Yeah.
I have
So
discovered that.
yeah, so it's a very a fluid and ever changing physical and emotional journey that we have, and uh, most people, their diet is such that there's really, honestly, there's not anyone walking the Western world that can't benefit from whole food nutrition therapy, and that's just the reality. So if you want to maintain at a high level, it's just part of the game of life anymore. Is you
Mm,
have to supplement because you're eating, but slowly but surely the food that you're eating is deficient in different kind of chemistry. So
hmm
it's slowly becoming deficient in your body, even though you're filling your stomach every day. Slowly but surely you're generating these deficiencies, not on purpose, but
hmm
it's just happening. You know,
Yeah.
50 years ago, you could eat a bowl of spinach and get so much iron out of it. Well, today you have to eat so much dramatically more spinach. It's just because the soil's been overgrown in, the plants are being pushed with chemistry to make them grow bigger. So
hmm
the plants are bigger, they taste right, they smell right, but the chemistry that's in them, the density of the nutrients that are in there is just
hmm
less than it used to be.
hmm
So you eat, but literally starve to death for vital nutrients.
Yes, I hear that. I have some whole food flash, froze dried, freeze dried, whatever.
Right.
Uh, it's like a powder you can put in water or in a protein shake, that kind of
Sure.
thing. And it does, one is greens and then one is red for all the reds, like the fruits
Mm,
and vegetables that are all red. So,
right.
yeah, I mean, there are ways out there to make up for all those deficiency, even if you eat a good diet, like you were saying, like the nutrient density just isn't there anymore in the vegetables that we eat.
Right. And then, you know, what's in the soil that the stuff was grown in? How were the plants taken care of when they were being grown? How was the meat handled? You know, how were the animals that became,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
the chickens and the beef and so forth? How were they
Yeah.
handled? What kind of drugs or antibiotics or hormones were these animals
Hmm.
given? And they all contribute to, you know, that lovely term that we call toxic load. And eventually you overload the body's ability to get that stuff to come out through the liver. And,
Hmm.
you know, we call it phase one and phase two detox pathway. And when you overwhelm it's sort of like you're trying to, you know, drain a water tank with a hose, but suddenly the hose is kinked up and now it just kind of trickles out. And
Hmm.
but at the same time, you're still adding stuff to the top. And the consequence is your body becomes more and more toxic. And eventually it starts sending a false signal that, hey, there's a problem in the body and I think I'm infected. So the body is very good at dealing with infection. And inflammation is the thing that it triggers. So it starts making inflammation abnormally. And
Mm.
over even just a short period of time, just a couple of weeks, eventually it says, hey, I can't get a strong enough reaction. So it starts to reach into your genetics and start to code off what we call pro-inflammatory proteins to make the inflammation response stronger. So over time, you get this slow spiraling upward inflammation and pain development in the body.
Hmm.
And wherever that weakness is in your body is where it tends to show up. It might be in your hands at first. You know, it's like, oh, I wake up and my hands and feet feel a little stiff. And then, you know, I move them around and they feel better. So you don't just show up at the doctor and suddenly he's like, hey, you have arthritis. You know, this has been a process that's been going on for many years.
Hmm.
So it's not a big surprise, but with hindsight, you can see that it's been developing for a long period of time.
Definitely.
Yeah,
You and I can probably talk for hours based on both of our experiences
sure.
with natural healing and all those things. So I really wanted to talk with you about our health and
Right.
how it correlates with money. So how does our health affect our money, especially as business owners?
Right. Well, you know, as everyone has seen in the news of late, you know, there's all of this debate about healthcare and how expensive healthcare is, and a lot of our resources end up going into healthcare when we don't have health. And
Mm,
so, a small amount of finances could be designated to the wellness side of life, which is how can I support my body to maintain its health and keep me
hmm.
from having sickness and disease occurring. You know, nobody can plan or, you know, predict, you know, what's going to happen in the future health wise, but there's a lot of things that you can do that really lower the probability of having sickness and disease developing in our body. Um, you know, many of the problems that occur as we age in life have to do with inflammatory diseases. So one of the big things that I'm interested in is always what can we do to reduce chronic inflammation for a person? And
Hmm.
that can be very helpful because many of the big diseases that tend to destroy our bodies and end our life prematurely tend to be inflammation generated type diseases. So
Mm,
that's one of the focuses that I have, and and the way it other ways it can affect our finances is when we don't feel good, we're not very productive. Like literally, it's hard to get
hmm.
out of bed. It's hard to stay focused. It's hard to, you know, anytime you get two people in a room, there's conflict. Well, when I feel good, I'm much more gracious with people, and I have a much longer fuse. You know, dealing with things that are
Mm,
like irritating, controversial. Maybe I want things done my way, you want things done your way. It's a lot harder for me to be in a compromising mood, you know, when I don't feel good. You know,
hmm.
it's literally, I mean, you've seen people, they whatever, they have a cold or a flu, they're kind of short fused with you because they just don't feel good.
Hmm.
When you walk around like that all the time, it's hard to be productive. It's really hard to be productive. Um, you know, historically, I worked in Seattle for a few years, and it didn't take very long. You know, I built up the my clientele, you know, quite large, and I was doing really well. And then just out of nowhere, I had a big car accident when I was there. There's stop and go traffic on the freeway. and everything stopped in front of me, and I got hit by a car from behind that was doing like
Mm.
70 miles an hour, and I was stopped, and ended up having a head injury from it. And at the time, I was working 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week, and it was really good money, but um it was almost one of those things of, I love it but I hate it, because I didn't have any kind of life. You got up,
Mm.
you worked, you
Mm.
managed to come home in time to eat something and go to bed, and then get up and do the same thing again. And it was almost like, gosh, I went off this merry-go-round. Well, I was suddenly forced off of it because
You
I,
got your wish.
oh my gosh, it was like uh I mean, it was surprising. I felt okay, but when you get an impact like that, it just shakes your head so violently, and your brain kind of bounces around inside your skull. They call it a closed head trauma.
Mm.
So suddenly, it's like I felt like my memory had been scrambled. It was like,
Mm.
oh, I want to call Misty, and then I pick up the phone, and it's like, oh my gosh, who am I calling, and what's going to happen? And I don't know, and I just get all anxious and crazy,
Yeah.
and then very quickly I lost most of my business because I just was like kind of out of my mind as a result of that. And I was like that for almost 3 years, just very difficult and sleeping all the time, and literally just kind of put me out of business. And then one of the companies I worked with, they had heard it, what had happened to me, and they connected me with a doctor from the East Coast who was a board certified neurologist, but he was also an alternative health practitioner.
Oh,
Yeah. So uh, anyway, so I met with him, and he said, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we're going to do about it. And this is what I want you to do. And so I started to, ironically, it was things that kind of detox your body is what he had recommended to me. And so I took it that first afternoon, and uh, then the next day, and when I got up that second morning, I felt some clarity in my mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is, something amazing is happening,
mm.
because you feel practically hopeless, like this is the way it is. And this is what the neurologist that I had been seeing was telling me. It's like, oh, this is it, and I can write in my report and you'll be disabled for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh, please don't do that, because I had this mindset of I'm going to recover somehow.
Mm.
And lo and behold, uh, it was very miraculous for me. And simply by detoxifying the body and then adding just a little bit of some other stuff that just helps with memory and recall, um, my clarity came back. And that whole process took years for me, though, where I shouldn't have been able to recover. I did. And but once I did, and I started thinking about, hey, I need to be back in business, and I want to be back in business, but I didn't want to have the life that I had before, where I was doing the
Right.
70 and 80 hours. And lo and behold, what I ended up developing was I was working half of that time and making more than I had before.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I was able to change the approach of what I was doing.
Hmm.
And even after the fact, I felt better after everything was over than I did before I had the accident, which
Hmm.
is also tremendously remarkable. I just can't I can't say enough about the difference it made for me.
That's incredible.
So
So
yeah,
your your health has had
uh,
a direct impact on your money.
oh yeah, like hugely.
Yeah.
So I
On
went
both
from like
sides.
in less than just about a year. One of the representatives from one of the companies I work with, she came knocking on my door, and she's like, "Gosh, you don't even have a sales volume. I didn't even know you existed." And I was like, "Well, thanks. That
Thanks.
makes me feel really good." Yeah. And then I was kind of like, "Why are you here? Why are you telling me these things?" And she's like, "Well, if I could do anything for you." And I was like, I can't think of anything." And then I just kind of shoot her away. And then flash forward a year, and I'm just like busy as all get out. And she came through the door again, and she's like, "Hey, how you doing? You remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And she's like, "I just wanted to congratulate you. You've gone from like nothing to like the second biggest practice in the five Northwest states in less than a year." And
Hmm.
she's like, "I don't know how you did it." And I was like, "Well, thanks." And she's like, "Well, if I can ever do anything for you." And it's like, I can't think of anything. And as she's leaving, she's got her hand on the door handle, and she closes the door as she was trying to go out. And then she turns around and she says, I do remember you from years ago. And I was like, really? She said, yeah, you were around that group of doctors that was, going through this training through, this certain doctor. And she said, I tried to do that, but it was very difficult. And I just didn't have she said it was layered too much on top of each other. And I just couldn't get that. But she said, something's different about you now, that yes, you have, you still have that knowledge, but something inside of you kind of opened up, and you're much more intuitive in nature, in your approach to
Mm,
application of clinical nutrition.
mm.
And she said there's a sensitivity to you now that you didn't have before, because she said something along the lines of, apparently I was very cut and dry previously, and
Yeah,
said, whatever your experience has been, you're just much more gracious with people now. And I could appreciate that.
that's really good. It was evidence of all the work that you went through. Some of it
Yeah.
you chose to do, but some of it was forced upon you. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I understand that story too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
You're
the
like, I wasn't expecting this, but okay, we'll deal with it.
time to learn a lesson, right?
Well, what are we learning today? Mm,
Excuse me.
yes. So we talked about how does your health affect your money. Now, let's flip that around. How does your money affect your health?
How does your money affect your health? Um, well, like in this climate right now, the big battle is over like insurance and healthcare. But a lot of the things that people are interested in aren't covered by insurance. Like somebody like me, there's ways I could get qualified to accept insurance kind of here and there, but then it limits a lot of the stuff that I do. So we operate specifically under the wellness banner. So
Hmm.
it's a cash practice now, and so everybody pays out of their pocket. And so it's one of those types of businesses now that if I don't get success for people, it's that you don't do a good job, you don't eat. uh,
Right.
yeah. So, but with modern medicine, you show up to the doctor's office, and win, lose or draw, he's going to get paid.
Mm,
So you get all this, you hope you get the best, but you frequently leave, and it's like, why do I still feel bad? I get so
hmm.
many people that go to the doctor and they're like, hey, I just had my annual physical and I had all the blood tests and the doctor said everything's okay. But if that's the case, why do I feel so bad?
Right. I
Yeah.
know.
Right.
It
So
could
when they
be a
come to somebody
number
like
of
me,
things.
yeah, we have different ways of looking at people other than looking at your blood test, looking for diseases.
Hmm.
We're looking for deficiencies, imbalances, not just
Hmm.
in the chemistry of the body, but also in the lifestyle. Because if you're out of balance in areas of your life, it affects your health also.
Hmm. It does. So, when we talk about money affecting your health, I want
Yeah.
to touch on people's thoughts and ideas and beliefs around money that can negatively impact their health.
Yeah. A lot of people, maybe I'm not quite understanding what you're asking, but the
So, let's say somebody has this belief that their identity is wrapped up in their money, and it's always a stress factor for them. Like money is always stressing
for
them
sure.
out.
Yeah.
Stress, stress affects our health directly. So, that's kind of what I'm getting at is we talked about how health affects your money, but now
Yeah.
how does your relationship with money affect your health?
Yeah. So, you have to remember that money is a tool, and having more money uh, enables you to do more stuff for sure. But, when you're in love with chasing the money, that's where a lot of that stressy kind of stuff comes into play. And then it's
Mm,
like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And oh, I got to go make some more. And oh, I'm going to do this deal. And oh, I'm doing this. And, every other part of the life is kind of like pushed to the side as I'm
hmm.
chasing this big dream that's out there. But we have to remember and keep it in balance that money is a tool. It helps us to live on this earth. It helps
Hmm.
us to drive a nice car and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a tool. um,
And
And
if we misuse the tool, it can negatively impact our health.
gosh, and it's our approach to that tool is the um, absolutely, anxiety, depression, greed, all of these crazy emotions that get out of balance. They absolutely impact health because they draw down on the big stress adaptation ability of our body.
Let's dive into that a little bit deeper. I think that's really important for people to understand how those negative emotions impact our health. So if people have negative emotions around money, if it's
Oh yeah,
grief, anger, uh,
yeah,
greed, envy, jealousy,
right,
fear, whatever, right?
yeah.
Anxiety.
See, all of those things absolutely impact how our body deals with stress.
How do those negative emotions impact
Yeah.
our body?
Oh, and it's surprising, not just the negative ones, but it's any of the things that our body has to process. I got married. Woohoo! Wonderful. I got divorced. Oh no, it's terrible. But to our body, it's the same kind of a scenario to it. It's stressful, and it does this process to work through uh, how does that impact me in the psyche, and and that so when we're under stress of whatever kind it is, out of order emotions is a big player. I think there's a book I read maybe 20 years ago. This doctor's premise was that all disease came out of our mind because
Hmm.
of inappropriate thought life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thoughts bring the emotions, and
Hmm.
it's kind of a crazy scenario. But as when we're experiencing these stressors in life, we metabolize these things called alkaline ash minerals much more dramatically, much faster, and we find them in high concentration here in the front part of our brain. And so when we start to create deficiencies in that area, it's really easy to do because our diet largely doesn't contain very much of these alkaline ash minerals anymore. They're like the relaxing minerals for the body. But when we're
Hmm.
under stress, particularly emotional stress, we metabolize these minerals faster. And as we create that deficiency, the symptoms that come on very quickly are anxiety, depression, memory problems, bluesiness. And then it's not that we need we need an anxiety pill. We don't need that. All that does is it's kind of like putting your hand over the top of I got a big wound on my leg and I'm covering it with my hand and it's like, hey, everything's okay. As
If
soon
I
as you move
cover
your
it, I
hand,
can't
the
see it.
wound's still there. Yeah, 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 and that's basically how drugs work. They'll help control a symptom for a while, but they create other crazy side effect symptoms on top of it, and it doesn't
Mm,
do anything to slow the progression of that deficiency that caused the problems in the first place.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah. So the longer you keep yourself in that over emotional state,
mhm,
particularly negative emotions, they really draw down on the body. And there's lots of like negative types of chemistry that comes out in the body when we're having negative emotions. It's kind of a crazy thing. We talk about endorphins, like the feel good chemistry of the body. Well,
mhm,
they have opposing ones that really draw down the body even further. So the longer we're experiencing those things in a sustained setting, the
mhm.
the more it impacts our health.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it because I know that our emotions and our thoughts they play a huge role in everything else, in how we feel, in how we show up in life, in how we show up in business, and what we produce in business. It all plays together. So I would love for people to start looking at the emotions that they're entertaining on a regular basis and how is that impacting your output? How is that impacting your health? How is that impacting your business negatively or positively?
Right.
Yeah. So if you have a practice of internal calm, guess what? It's going to have a more sustainable impact on the positive side of things over time. But if your natural internal practice is anger,
Right.
guess what's going to happen? It's going to
Yeah.
have a massive negative impact on your health over time and your ability to output. And yes, some people use anger as a driver in business or sports, but it might kill you quicker.
For sure. You know, anger is even like that I've read it's a secondary emotion, and what's really behind it tends to
Hmm.
be fear and pain.
Yeah, typically. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anger is just a surface emotion, a reaction. Something deeper is underneath. And usually I find it's either fear or pain
yeah, or both. It's
or
crazy.
both, right?
Yeah,
Some
right.
sort of fear that's manifested itself or some sort of pain. There is a moment where I find anger very helpful
Mm,
because I have a baseline of internal calm and joy
right.
and, all those wonderful things. And I've trained myself to be that way. It didn't naturally happen. I had to train myself to be that way. And I started doing that in my early 20s with the fibro. So it was, a blessing that came out of it was my emotional awareness, my mental awareness, and training
Right.
myself out of those things. But when you get to a place where you have a baseline of internal calm, that's my baseline, and anger pops up, it's a guidepost to tell me that there's something wrong.
Yes, that's absolutely true. When I really think we're you know uh our mind, our will, our emotions, that when we have the plumbing hooked up correctly, uh
Uh-huh.
our emotions should tell us about the experience of the world that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's hooked up properly, if anger comes up, there's probably a reason for that to take place. But it's when
Yes.
when those emotions are flashing at us in an inappropriate fashion, there might be something we want to take a look at and address.
Mm.
'Cause definitely, it impacts how we um, associate with people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in our family, our friends, in our businesses. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, one of my good friends, he's a great businessman, but he has flash anger. Like, whew.
Mm.
Yeah, and the first two or three times I experienced it, I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
I okay? Is everything okay? And then I realized it was like, he's like a pressure cooker, and eventually the valve opens up. And the
Mm-hmm.
second it's done, he's like, hey, want to go get some lunch?
Oh
But you're like,
boy.
oh my gosh, what just happened? Yeah,
I just got beat up by your anger. No thanks.
yeah, it's just like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those that, I'm not judging anybody for it, but we need to understand that anger, if you do have a baseline, a healthy baseline, anger is there to tell you that something is wrong. It's when you stay in the pattern of anger that it is toxic and abusive to you and everyone around you. And in business, that's not a fun way to do business because you burn through connections, you burn through clients, you burn through so much stuff.
Yeah, it
It's
just
more,
defiles everyone around you. It just
it does. And it's more sustainable in business if you have that baseline of calm. Yes, I am human. Yes, I have anger at times, but I know when my anger pops up, it's because somebody's crossed a boundary.
right.
And I set another boundary or remove myself from that person altogether. I'm like, okay, I'm mad. I don't get mad easily. I'm angry. Why am I angry? Oh, that person crossed a boundary. Got it.
I,
Okay.
there it is.
Done. Problem
Yeah,
solved. Let me go take care of this.
right.
So we can use our emotions to help us if we know
Yeah,
how to.
yeah. It, it's a good guide through the world. It's a
Hmm.
secondary way to experience what's going on around us. And
Hmm.
when they're wired up properly, it makes for a beautiful life.
Mm, it does. And you're much more aware of the red flags in people, the green flags in people, because you're actually listening to the signals in your body. If you're in a state of fear all the time, you're not listening to when there's actual danger because your body
Right.
thinks it's in danger 24/7. So that's another thing that I've noticed in my healing evolution over decades is just being much more aware, instantly aware of those triggers that are in my body and like, oh, okay. I actually feel fight or flight. I feel flight because there's actual danger. So listen
Yeah.
to it, honor it, and remove myself from the situation. Uh, but again, when you create that baseline of internal calm and fear pops up, you're like, okay, is this a subconscious belief that I need to work on, or is it a legit fear that I need to actually
Right.
process? Is something trying to warn me that there's a dangerous person in my midst or whatever, Um, so the more that we are aware of those things, the easier it becomes to navigate through them.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's a
Yeah,
huge
so
part of
many,
our health.
right. And so many people, they have these, let's just call them like emotional problems or issues that go on. And so much of it though is when there's these chemical deficits, these nutrition deficiencies occurring in the body that particularly affect the psyche. No amount of counseling, analyzing it doesn't really help it, because there's a physical aspect to it also.
Mm,
And when we support that, ironically, it's so much easier to start to work through a process. Hey, what am I really feeling? Because it's like you're putting on glasses that are the wrong prescription. You're
mm,
looking at the world through a skewed perspective because you have this deficiency that's going on.
hmm
So everything just looks off for you. But as soon as you start to feed the body, uh, this marvelous thing happens. I work with a lot of teens and kids and adolescents that have like things like ADD and ADHD and behavioral
mm,
problems, and they need like special education programs through their school because they have uh, you know deficiencies that associate with mental. And I remember one kid in Phoenix, and when he came around the corner, I met him at his house. He was 12 years old, and you could feel this black cloud coming around the corner.
mm,
He had behavioral problems, and oh my gosh, it was the craziest thing. He had like one of those big Jim Bowie knives strapped to the side of his leg, and he was just
mm.
like raising it in and out of his little holster that I was in, its sheath, as I was talking to him. And I finally said to the mom, I said, hey, why don't we like take that aside, because it's a distraction. I
Right?
was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So mom finally took it away, but the kid sat there like this, with his arms crossed the whole time, just kind of frowning at me. And I was like, hey, good to meet you. Here's what we're going to do. And, whoosh, I got to get out of here. So, I got him set up on the kind of nutrition I was talking about that contains the
hmm
rich nutrients of like alkaline ash minerals and some of the things that are associated with that. And I said, hey, I'll see you in a month. I came back, and it was like a different kid. He was like, oh, Dr. Hungerford, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was, you know, I could have been, knocked me over with a feather. I mean, it was such a dramatic change in this kid, and it was because he had such a amazing deficiency.
Mm.
Yeah, we solved it with whole food nutrition.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that piece back into it. So our nutrition affects our emotions, it affects our
Yeah,
mind, it affects
absolutely.
everything. Our emotions affect it, like
Yeah,
everything works in like this infinity kind of loop.
yeah.
So it all plays off of everything else. I have
Well,
so
none of
enjoyed.
these things, they're not independent from each other. Your body is
Mhm,
not physically independent from your mind. It's not physically independent from your will, from your emotions. It's all
mhm,
wired in there together, and you can't just cherry pick and choose. Oh, I just want to work with this thing right here, because it's a whole body and it all works
mhm.
together.
It does,
So you have to take that
definitely.
approach when you try to help people.
For sure. Well, I have loved this conversation. Just for the sake of our listeners, we should probably close our
Sure.
conversation because I usually do my interviews for like a half hour, but we went longer
Oh,
today, and I'm
goodness.
okay. I'm okay with that because this is such an important topic that everybody needs to hear. And I want everyone in the business community to thrive.
Right.
And this is a huge part of learning how to thrive. And you know what? Maybe try something outside of the traditional medical box if you need to. So, for our listeners, I know that you have a program that if they want
Yes.
to test you out, try you out, you have a program available that's pretty non-invasive.
Right. So, you don't have to think of, oh, well, I got to take a bunch of pills, or, my problems are different than the next person's. Well, um, if you want better vitality, less inflammation, less pain in your body, better sleeping, just generally kind of tune up your body. I have something, I call it a 21-day detox program.
Hmm
Uh, don't focus so much on the detox part, but it's really like, it's a meal kind of replacement nutrition shake that has been designed, and we tweaked it just a little bit so it helps to cleanse the body a little bit. You don't feel weird or strange when you do it. You just feel better. And
Mm.
your body works better, you have less pain, less inflammation, because
Mm,
we're lowering that, so-called toxic load in the system, and you just function better, and you're remarkably easier to be around when you come out the other end of it. So
that's
yeah.
amazing. I love that. So where can people find this program? Do you have a website?
I do. It's donshealth.com.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty simple. So is it on the website or do they have to reach out to you?
No, you have to reach out to me. The website is just generally there, kind of like a landing spot, so you can say, "Hey, there he is. This is what he does."
Yeah, it's a giant business card.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And most people try to reach out. I can tell you the vast majority of the clients that I like see on a personal basis, they come
Mm,
through hot referrals. I helped you. You had a great testimony. You got success. Like, no one else has been able to help you. You tell your friends, your family, and then they get the same kind of help. That's a hot
mm,
referral.
mm,
That's the vast majority of my business. I've never advertised because if you do a good job, people are going to
mm.
recommend you. You
Right.
do a good job for one person, they tell three people. You do a
Yeah.
bad job for them, they tell 10.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how my business has run for, 30 plus years now. And,
Mhm.
hot referrals are really the name of the game. And if you can get into somebody like me, it's really a blessing. We
Mhm.
try to keep the cost affordable for everyone so that the vast majority of people can use their finances and get the help that they're looking for.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. So let's tell the audience again, what is your website?
It's donshealth.com.
Hmm. Thank you. And I appreciate you showing up for the interview today. I know that you're on the other side of a little cold. So if Don has had a little bit of like or in
Yeah.
his voice,
Yeah.
it's because he's on the back end of a cold. So thank you guys for
Yeah.
being patient and gracious.
Yes. Thanks so much for that. Yeah. 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 As soon as I started to feel a little weird Friday afternoon, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be with Misty on Monday. So I got to do everything I can to feel better right away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your time. So let's jump off of here so we don't bore the
Yeah.
audience, but also take care of your voice.
Yes. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your wealth of information, the knowledge that you have. Thank you for your passion
Yeah.
to help all of us have vitality and better health.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So that'd be a great way to start off the new year. Get
Yeah.
kind of cleaned up. Yep.
Yeah. Let's get all those toxins out of the body. Icky. Yeah.
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 Alrighty.
All right. Well, you guys, I hope you have found this interview informative and helpful. And if you have, please reach out to Don. He's a great person to know. He's a great person that you can work with for better health and vitality. And I hope you all have the most amazing 2026. And
Amen to that.
I hope it's your best year yet. Everybody listening. Well,
Yes.
you guys, until next time, you are a wonderful audience, and we will see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.